Now let's look at how to write an equation in vertex form from a graph of a parabola. So the question is very straightforward. It simply says write an equation for each parabola. So how do we actually do that? Well, let's just get this full parabola in view here, including the vertex. So here we have, write an equation for this parabola. Here's the vertex. We know that the vertex is at 1, -4. And the other thing you should be able to notice here is that the step pattern is from the vertex, we're going over 1, up 1 each way. And then from the vertex, we go over 2, up 4. And that's synonymous, if you recognize this, to our graph of y equals x squared, which we could put on the same grid here. Y equals x squared is this. And we know that y equals x squared has an a value of 1. Because this has the same step pattern, the same over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4 from the vertex, that means that the a value, because it also opens up, must be positive 1. And so we know that the h value is 1. We know that the k value is -4. We know the a value is positive 1. And then we just go ahead and we sub those things into y equals a x minus h all squared plus k. So y equals 1. We don't need to write the 1 there technically, but we can. X minus 1 all squared plus, not plus, it's negative, k is -4, so it's -4. And that is the equation from that graph. Now you might not always see the step pattern, and there's some cases where we won't. And so the second example is one in which we don't see the step pattern, and we have to use a bit of a different method. Let's look at this now. So it says, again, we're to write the equation for this parabola. And again, we know the h and the k value. So we're given the vertex. You're always going to be given the vertex if you're trying to find something in this vertex form. And so what that means is we need to determine the a value. We have no idea what that a value is in this case. We can't really see from the step pattern. There's not a grid there. And even if there was, we couldn't be completely sure if that point was actually on the on the actual value on the grid. It wasn't like 3.1 or something like that. So we're going to use the only other point that we're given, and that's this point over here. And we're going to sub that in as the x and y. Now here's why. We know that x and y change along this whole parabola. But at this specific point right here, x and y are on this parabola. And so if we can sub in x and y, and we can sub in h and k, we have only one variable that we don't know, and that's that a value right there. So let's go ahead and sub these in. So I'm going to sub in, first thing I'm going to sub in is h and k is equal to -8 and 4. And then I'm also going to sub in that x and y is equal to -6 and -2. So y is -2 equals, we don't know what a is, that's what we're trying to solve. X is -6 minus h. H is -8, so we're subtracting -8, then we're squaring it. And then the k value is +4. Now what we need to do is we need to isolate a. So what I'm going to start with doing is I'm going to start by simplifying what's in the brackets. So I get a times -6 plus 8, because subtracting a negative is adding, and then +4 at the end. And so what we're going to get is a times 2 squared plus 4 is equal to -2. And 2 squared is 4. So a times 4 is equal to -2. -2 is equal to a times 4 plus 4. And then what we need to do is we need to do the reverse order of operations. We need to add or subtract, so SAMDEB. We need to add or subtract before we multiply or divide. So that's how we rearrange an equation. So let's do that. If I subtract 4 from both sides, that gives me -6. And then I have 4a, or a times 4. If I divide by 4 now, I get a to be -1.5. And if a is -1.5, I know that the h and k values were -8 and 4. And I can go ahead and I can write my equation. It's y equals, in general, we have the y and the x variable still there. We don't put the numbers back in for that. I write the a value. I write the x minus -8, so that means it's +8 all squared, plus 4. And that is the equation for that parabola. Hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask for help.